Welcome back into One Winning Pod, where it is officially the bye week. The Ravens made it 12 straight games before the bye week. Very late one, certainly. I think is this the last bye week? This might be the last bye week of the regular season for the NFL as a whole. Yeah, so couldn't have it any later. But, hopefully everyone had a good weekend. I know the Ravens made it a little bit of a late night last night. No going to bed early with a blowout fourth quarter if that was in your plans to catch up on some sleep after the holiday. But, Ravens 9-3. Great. Look at that record. It looks great. We'll delve into that. But I mean, first, this is the first time we've seen everyone since the big turkey day, or turkey plus ham day, we're figuring out is what it was this year for a lot of us. There's a lot of ham. Not everyone likes turkey, even though, you can put it in duck fat and gravy. It's actually pretty good that way. But you got to have the ham too, right, guys? There to, kind of balance out the kind of relatively bland taste of the bird.
Yeah, I know with my family, like ham is usually the one that everyone goes for. I think my parents ended up figuring out like some like wet brine situation with the turkey, which is a thing. You do that dry brine or something to make it a little more flavorful. But didn't end up with any leftovers. I was kind of bummed. I didn't, I had like leftovers, all the vegetables and potatoes and some other things, but didn't end up with any ham leftovers. Everybody wants some ham leftovers. So I had to go and Sunday I was like, you know what? I want some ham. Went up and picked up another one and just made myself some ham. So now we can have all the ham sandwiches for this entire week. Now we have too much, but it's okay.
Hey, well, send some my way, man. But I mean, like you said, everyone wants those ham leftovers. Well, apparently everyone except for Alice, because like I was out of the room when my mom was asking her what leftovers she wanted to take. And she said that we didn't want any ham. And I didn't find out about this until lunch the next day when I was so excited to make myself a turkey ham sandwich, just douse it in gravy. And I go in the fridge, like, there's no ham. And I, sometimes I can't find stuff in the fridge. I'm not the best finder, So as I was like, hey, I know usually I can't find things, but there's no ham in here. And she's like, oh yeah, we didn't need the ham. So I told your mom not to leave any leftovers. Like, I wanted the ham though. So, but Thanksgiving Day was great with the turkey and the ham. Just didn't get any more post the Thursday dinner.
There are so many things about Thanksgiving that like every year I'm reminded of. I'll rattle them off real quick. Number one thing that I, don't understand about Thanksgiving is I hear that stuffing is an acquired taste. I don't know about you guys. I can't acquire a taste one day a year. I still think it's awful. Number two, how in the world are we so bad? Like we all decided, I don't think I'm bad at it, but like universally, like we all decided we're going to cook a turkey that day and people suck at it. They're so bad at it. They're not equipped to cook a bird. Like, all you need is a thermometer, like even a cheap one, and you could do this all right. Like 150 in the breast, 180 in the back, pull it at the breast, the back will be fine, and like spatchcock it for the love of God if you're worried about it not cooking evenly. Like you're doing all this work and you're just like refusing to do the one step to make it work out well. Like that blows my mind. And I feel like the turkey, like there has to be somebody in the family that knows how to do the turkey. Why is it always not the person that knows how to do it though? Like, I don't understand. So it feels like kind of easy. And here's my last piece. All right. So like turkey's an icon of America, right? Everyone makes turkey for Thanksgiving. What food do home cooks botch on a holiday in other countries? I want to know. So if you are from another country and like we've all decided like the tradition is X, but like it turns out no one can do it and everyone like kind of side on the complaints like it's not that good of a dish. I want to know. I feel like it's a uniquely American thing to be like, we make turkey on this day and like universally most people stink at it.
I know. I feel like the in and out oven situation I think is like the number one thing. Like it's that's like the number one, like the cook. Like you need to have the temperature stable. If you're opening it every 10 minutes to swap things out, like you're gonna have a bad time.
But that's what you got to do on Thanksgiving, right? Because everyone's cooking so many things. Therein lies the problem. We just stuff the menu too much.
I know. Yeah,
Many
way
things.
too many things. Or you need to have more cooking surface. You have an oven, you got a smoker, you got a turkey fryer or something if you're into that.
Tactically deploy every kitchen gizmo.
That's how you do it right.
Yeah. I got to ask though, before we move on into the real things we need to talk about the Ravens, mac and cheese, is it a Thanksgiving side?
1,000%.
Mac and cheese is always a side. It doesn't need to be Thanksgiving.
Yes. You guys usually have it?
Oh yeah.
That's so interesting. At least for my family, we never really have mac and cheese. I mean, I love mac and cheese. You guys know I make a good mac and cheese.
Oh yeah.
But we've never actually had it on Thanksgiving.
Oh man.
No kidding. Well, you gotta fix that.
Well, it's never too late to start a new family tradition. Mac and cheese coming to the Rayborg's Thanksgiving table 2024.
Could. Eventually, I mean, I think I'll just take over half the meal. I made like 4 dozen fresh rolls, which are amazing. Sweet potatoes, but yeah. If I add too many things, I think at some point my parents are going to be like, "What's going on?"
Oh man, I'm actually deploying the turkey for Christmas. We have like a leftover turkey still in the freezer, so my thought is though I'm gonna take out all the bones. I'm gonna completely debone it before cooking, so that like when the feast comes, you can just slice it. You don't have to worry about like like no one wants to take the leg. I always take the leg because it's delicious, but like no one wants the leg because all the little tendons. But what if you take them all out? That's what I'm gonna do.
Good luck with that, man. That sounds like a big time.
Oh yeah, no, it's miserable. Yeah, deboning a whole thing is going to be a pain, but nothing we can't handle.
All right. Well, it sounds like that was Thanksgiving. Yep. Sounds like we all had a good one. All had full stomachs, able to watch 3 non-Ravens football games, and then we got 2 slates of games then on Sunday as well. Before we came to Sunday night game against the Chargers. Which a lot of America was expecting the Ravens to win. I think they showed in the pregame broadcast, 82% of America picked the Ravens straight up. Everyone in the broadcast picked the Ravens to win big. And the Ravens did win, but I think this was much more of a defensive struggle, if we want to call it that, or maybe offensive ineptitude battle than we were expecting in LA.
Yeah, I was joking in the chat that my iPad was in danger. iPads on the sidelines can sometimes be in danger. I was taking notes and I was just like, I was so mad. I was like, this iPad's in danger. Rachel's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I feel like I have to like celebratory throw it across the room. Like not an actual celebration, but like, it's a symbol of my disgust. Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah. Defensively, I think there's a lot of good. This defense is a championship caliber defense. I think they're continuing to show that. I think they stepped up in a big way, continuing to make plays, continuing to give the offense opportunities to be able to score. Did we do a lot with those opportunities? No. But I think the fact that the defense came away with so many takeaways, I think is absolutely huge. You even, convert more than 3 points out of all of those. All of a sudden now you have a game that the team could really run away with. So, I mean, that's a big positive takeaway, and especially going into the bye too. It's a really late bye. Yeah, there was kind of a mini bye with like the Thursday night and then Sunday night kind of back to back. But still, I mean, it's pretty late in the season. These guys haven't had a ton of rest. For the defense to come out and do that, while they've been playing physical pretty much all year. I mean, hats off to those guys. I think that was great. Offense, I think there's some things to work on for sure. But I think there was some good. It was hard to find, but I think it was there if you looked hard enough. But I feel a lot better going into the win though. I mean, 9-3 looks pretty dang good. So especially going into a late bye, I think that there are a lot worse outcomes that could have happened from this game.
Before we delve into the recap, I think there's a really easy question to. Well, I shouldn't say easy. It's a short question, but I don't think the answer is easy. So, as it stands right now, the Ravens are going into the bye as the number 1 seed in the AFC. As some have already pointed out, some of the teams that the Ravens have short on their tail, so to speak, have easy matchups coming up this weekend. So it's very possible the Ravens will lose that seed just by being on the couch this coming week. Do we feel right now that this Ravens team looks like a number 1 seed at this point?
I mean, sure. I think they look like a number 1 seed. I think the reason I struggle with this answer is because I think traditionally number one seeds, usually there's more of a dominant team, but I feel like every team has shown warts this year in the AFC. Despite the AFC being like undeniably a very strong conference and there's a lot of competition, I think the warts have been shown. And I would say maybe the Eagles seem a little bit more of a one seed on the NFC side, but then like, you know, you have San Francisco and there's a pretty steep drop off after that. So I do think they look like a one seed, but they don't look like the dominant, like running away with it one seed, which is, I mean, shown in the standings. No one's running away with it. It's going to be kind of close. It's just that the Ravens have an awful end of year schedule from that perspective. I think it's a good end of year schedule from the get everything out before the postseason, like get in the best shape you possibly can be from a know what your problems are perspective, but not from like layup games. They're definitely going to be tested.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. I mean, I think, look at the other top seeds that we're competing with right now. They're kind of all in the same place. Chiefs obviously have the history, but their offense is really struggling right now. Defense is still playing pretty good, but their offense just isn't able to really score. They've been having a lot of issues with that. Look at Miami. They are hot. Their offense is definitely hot. I think they're a little bit streaky. And the injury to Jalen Phillips, I think, is going to be pretty big for them. They're going to have to figure out how to replace his production on their defense. And Jacksonville, they're looking pretty good. They've won a lot of games, but again, like it's kind of the same over with the Chiefs. Their offense just has been struggling a lot at times to score. So, and then behind that, obviously, you have the 7-4 Steelers, which nobody thought that they were going to be the top wild card. They still don't look like it, I think, for a lot of people, not just Ravens fans. And you've got the Browns and then the Colts behind them. So, I mean, yeah, there's so many teams that are in the mix of it right now, but they're all very close together. So I think with the Ravens, at least over the last like 5 games, scored over 30 points, which again is kind of crazy to say, like that has not happened for a while. But we've been scoring very well. The defense is playing very well. I mean, even against this game with the Chargers, look, at the end of the day, like it was a game that everyone expected them to win. They did win. It was a little ugly, but holding that team, which is a high-powered offense, to 10 points, I don't think that's something to be overlooked. So, I think at the end of the day, you kind of just look at it like, yeah, it could have gone a lot better. Honestly, we've had a lot of games like that this season where, we kind of go into it thinking it's going to be a blowout, or we go into it and we think it's going to be close and then it's going to be a blowout. So, I mean, some things like that can surprise you. I think that's fine. But yeah, I think they're the closest thing I think we have to a 1 seed now. But yeah, I agree with you, Hal. The Eagles right now, after watching them against like the Bills, like they look pretty dang good. Like they look like they're going to run away with the 1 seed in that conference.
Yeah, you look at the NFC, and you look. The Eagles right now currently are the number 1 seed, 10-1 record, plus 64 point differential. Compare that to the 10 seed in the NFC. You got the New Orleans Saints, who are tied with like 4 other teams at 5 and 6, plus 7 point differential. Then you go to the AFC. You got the Ravens at number 1, obviously, like we're saying, 9 and 3, plus 137 point differential, which is actually 3rd best in the league. Only the Cowboys and the 49ers have a higher one right now. And then you look at the 10 seed right now, which shockingly is how far the Buffalo Bills have fallen, even though they do have a plus 101 point differential, which is good for 4th in the league. And you look at the standings right now in this mess of everything you guys just said, like, I feel like the NFC playoff picture is starting to take shape. It's going to be pretty similar to what we see at the end of the year. The AFC is a mess. I still think it's like you just dump the jigsaw puzzle out and you're just kind of sorting the pieces to figure out which ones kind of go in the same vicinity of each other, right? I mean, I certainly think that the Ravens look like one of the top 4 teams in the AFC, but yeah, I think if you're trying to rank them, it's like you're probably taking the Ravens, Chiefs, Jaguars, and Dolphins or Bills. But a definitive ranking of them seems really difficult right now. So, I think that we go into this bye looking, pretty excited about what the Ravens' potential is. But yeah, I mean, the number 1 seed still feels like something that the Ravens need to just tighten their grasp on a little bit before we start feeling comfortable. Like that's actually something that we feel this team has a very good shot at getting at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll add a couple of things real quick. I forgot to say the Cowboys on the NFC side. I think they're also looking pretty good. But I think the thing that's tricky is that in today's NFL, we've been trained to think of 1 seeds as like, oh, like offensively they're doing really well. Maybe they had some blowout games, and defense is like kind of an afterthought, right? It's like always the offense had to be there. With this team, we're talking about it, and I think this is like a perfect transition. We have a championship level defense. The defense is just like ridiculous. No one scores on them. Like, as long as the offense does something, it's like almost like 2000, but not quite, because like the offense is actually competent, just like annoying because they should be even better. So, yeah, it's like, okay, the defense is really good. We score enough points. Why not? Why can't this be a 1 seed? So I think it's just like a little a-traditional, which is hilarious. I think Yoshi said it the other day, like, we pay our quarterback, 250 some million, and then we're like talking about how the defense is so good. Not that like we're trying to like putting slander on Lamar. It's just kind of funny how like we finally get him to the contract, and now it's like, but the defense is, by far the better unit. And that's just, we also have $100 million middle linebacker, so, details.
Yeah. You said it, man. The defense right now is just looking incredible. And I think they're continuing to ascend, I think, which makes me really excited about these, I'm going to call it second half because it's not really a half, but post-bye, the stretch of 5 or 6 games that you have there. Obviously, a lot of those teams are in that upper echelon of the top half of the league, right? You've got the Jags, you've got the Dolphins, you got the Niners, you got the Steelers. Rams, I guess, questionable where they're at, but anyway, you got all these teams that are very good right now, and everyone agrees, and I agree with them that it looks like a gauntlet. It's going to be really difficult for the Ravens to string together a lot of wins in the second half. But the thing that I kind of look at here is defense is continuing to get better game in and game out. You've got to buy. Guys are going to get rested. That's going to be a huge boon, particularly over the last couple of weeks. I think we kind of talked about there were at times, I think, when some of the guys on the defensive line it didn't have the same juice. I think they were kind of running out of steam, things like that. I felt like this game in particular, having that extra rest between the Thursday night game and this one, I thought guys looked really explosive, right? I think Madubuike looked really explosive. Pierce was involved. Even Broderick Washington, who was a healthy scratch the week before, he got a sack. He was involved. And the outside linebackers continuing to play really great. Clowney looked really great. Van Noy getting involved, always also, explosive. So, I look at it right now where, the offense still has a work in progress, and that's fine. But, I can't see a world now where the defense just kind of collapses. I think they've been tested a lot. I think they've been up to the challenge. I think they've continued to rise and elevate their play. And I think the best is really yet to come with this defense.
Yeah, good point there with the rest. We talked the past 2 weeks in these recap episodes with how this defense was getting, while still playing really, really well, was getting a little sloppy, right? With the tackling in particular, and letting up some points in the second half. And we didn't see that. We didn't see that in this game at all. It's incredible to say, but even if the Chargers had gotten the win in that game somehow, which probably would have been after, that touchdown that they did get, Ravens do a fumble, on their side of the field, and the Chargers get a field goal and win it in overtime of a field goal kick is probably a way that would have gone. I still think you could say the defense played a perfect game, because what more could they have done in that game? They held the Chargers to, once again, this defense did not give up any plays of longer than 40 yards. You've got some explosive players on that offense, even if they're maybe not 100%. That was a huge win. You got, probably for the first time in Ravens history, you had a game where not only did you force 3 fumbles, but you got a fumble. You forced a fumble and recovered from the team's star quarterback, star running back, and star wide receiver. Yeah, that's pretty darn impressive. Of course, there's a little bit of a luck element to that, but still, these are players who are Pro Bowl caliber, all pro level, those 3. It was just across the board. It's kind of a boring analysis because everyone did what there's been doing all year. It's a deep unit. It's just week in and week out. We're seeing this, and this was a great bounce back performance that we needed to see from them after, the Cleveland, the loss against Cleveland. And then while they rebounded against Cincinnati, you still have the question of, okay, well, Joe Burrow only played a quarter and a half. If he had stayed in the game, would it have been, the same performance from that unit? I think they answered questions right there, that there's still they're still as dominant as they were going into the Cleveland game with the win last night.
The physicality was noted. I think these non-AFC North teams like don't know what they're dealing with. Definitely was super physical. Obviously, got those fumbles that were cool, but also just like it was very tone setting. And I think the other thing that was nice, besides just the improved tackling and tying people up, you know, when you finally have them, like they don't get any more yards, kind of thing, was that in big moments, players stepped up. The Millette third down sack, or rather on fourth down to close out the game, was huge. He played it perfectly too. The way he like snuck in just right before the snap, well disguised, and then also the forced fumble in the red zone by Clowney. These are like the big time moment plays, or the fumble produced by Roquan right after we had like failed the fourth down conversion. On that, like in the red zone, or not in the red zone, but like, you know, in scoring position, with the like weird wildcat play with Gus. These are all like huge step up plays. So I think like they knew when to rise to the occasion when it mattered the most, and just like great all around individual performances as well. Marcus Williams is looking more and more like himself. I'm like super keen to see what he looks like after 2 more weeks of rest, because he's starting to really look like himself again. I mean, there's just playmakers all over, top to bottom.
One guy I wanted to call out, I thought he had a fantastic game. Kyle Hamilton, I think, really showed everyone like why he was a first round pick and why he's so good on this defense. I mean, we've seen it in like a lot of games. I think he's a pretty solid tackler. It's one of those like almost when he makes contact, you'd think that some guys are able to escape from him, but with it, I mean, it sounds cliche, but because we talk about it a lot, but like with his arms and just like hand strength, I think he can truly make shoestring tackles and bring people down, even when it doesn't look like, he has the guy wrapped up. Just kind of holds on real tight, and the guys are just not able to get away and be able to get down. He had a lot of those type of tackles this game, which I think were huge. He got involved in, also in the passing game. You kind of saw him in the box, also making plays in coverage as well. And I think it was that one play in particular that caused the delay of game, where you had that sort of feigned blitz, and then Herbert had to be able to change the play at the line, and then they suddenly ran out of time, caused a delay of game penalty. So, I mean, you're just seeing like all these different things from him of just, seeing why he's such a versatile piece in this defense. And really, like, it stood out to me of like, oh, okay, like now I see everything put together. Like, yeah, Hamilton is really kind of the glue that allows the rest of the team to kind of function around him. I really do think he's playing at an incredibly high level right now.
Yeah, Hamilton was the guy that I was going to single out here if he wasn't the guy that you just did right there. He was, in my opinion, the guy who had. It's hard to say that he definitely had the most impact on the defense, because so many players did, right? Obviously, but he was just all over the field in this game. One thing I really love that we're seeing from him that we haven't seen much of in his career, just due to a variety of different reasons, is that we're seeing him play in the back end more. Not the super deep stuff, but there were some corner routes where, early in the first quarter, he had an excellent pass defense. I forget who that ball was intended to, but it was a really good play, forced a third down. There were a couple other instances. We're seeing him play more than just in the line, on the box, but even while they're expanding his role, like you just pointed out there, Chris, he's still doing the things that he has been successful at so far in his career too. It's incredible that the league knows that blitz is so lethal that he's able to do. Like you said, it forced the Chargers to audible out down with only a few seconds left on the play clock, delay a game. That's the next level stuff. That's showing a young player who's really coming into their own, turning into a star in this league. It's just been so much fun to watch him this year. One of the best players to watch on this team this year, with a number of incredible performances, like we've said. But yeah, Hamilton just having a breakout year, and you're seeing absolutely why he was so heralded as a once-in-a-generation prospect when he came out in the draft last year.
Truly exciting about Hamilton. Question I have for you guys, like, because I feel like I'm so out of it when it comes to national media and narratives. There's a lot of talk in the broadcast lately of like, this guy is like an all-pro, Pro Bowl guy. Like, do we actually think he's going to get an all-pro or Pro Bowl nod this year? Like, I don't actually think he will because it's such a weird position he plays. It's kind of like hard to define. And I also just like don't truly believe people know, what's up with him. I guess maybe he might at the end of the year because of all these primetime games, like national games. But I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, do we think that Kyle Hamilton's actually going to be respected like that? Because I know I like him, but like, I don't know. I don't know if everyone feels the same way, league wide.
Remind me again who does the All-Pro voting. That one's journalists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think my answer is yes, and this is why. We had the game last night, and then we have two more primetime games at least, right? You got the game against San Francisco and the game against Jacksonville. Both games, I think that Hamilton will have to do a lot and, have situations for him to shine. I will admit, I can't remember how he did against Jacksonville last year, but I feel like that matchup with Ingram is one where he's going to be targeted a lot. San Francisco obviously likes to run the ball a lot, so he's going to have to play on the line a lot and defend Kittle. So it really, I think, is going to depend there. Down the stretch, if he's a star defensive player on a team that is potentially going to be the one seed in the AFC, or if not the one seed, is going to be making a play for it. To me, it seems like a great spot for a lot of exposure. I too do not follow much of the national media. I just don't have time, and I hate to say it, but stuff on that people do locally on YouTube, I just find more interesting. So usually I just watch that. But it wouldn't shock me at all if he did. At the same time, though, I think you're kind of proving my point, though. I mean, I think I'm going to prove your point, though, indirectly with what I'm going to say next. The reason I can't say for certain that he'll make it is because, I'm not paying super close attention to what all the other safeties are doing in the AFC right now. And therein lies, I think, the problem that you're getting into right there. It's harder for guys to break out into the scene, when they're not making a ton of interceptions and long interception returns at that position.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I don't know who you're talking about in particular. I mean, I don't know if it's Romo or whoever, but whoever was on the broadcast. But I've heard it before of just kind of these comments, and it's just, I mean, I take it as a compliment, but like not like actually serious because of just how the voting works. I mean, I think right now, in all honesty, I think Hamilton could be there. I think the opportunity is basically the changing of the guard of all the names that you would hear over the last couple of seasons, like i.e. Fitzpatrick, Micah Hyde, Poyer, guys like that. I think their approach, like they're hitting not the end of their careers, but they're kind of like hitting the end of like the height of their careers, if that makes sense. And so with that, you're going to have new names up there. But yeah, I don't know if like Hamilton's having the best, and I agree is like positional versatility is kind of going against him a little bit, but he might have a chance. There are a couple other young names too, like Jalen Petrie of Houston, who might be up there. Justin Simmons is playing pretty good for Denver. So, and then also Gino, I guess, has a ton of interceptions as well. So, he could be a name. I don't know.
Well, we know Gino loves taking things from everyone, so it wouldn't shock me at all if Gino stole the All-Pro nomination from Hamilton on interceptions alone. And I mean, he would be worthy of it in a vacuum. Like, he's having a great year, obviously, but even as great a year as Gino's having, I still think that Hamilton's having an even better one. And I think a lot of Ravens fans would probably agree with that. Although, actually, I think that would make an interesting poll who people think is having the better year, Hamilton or Stone.
Oh, I like that. We should definitely put that on the X machine. But
I think we will. Yeah, I think we will. We haven't done a poll in a while, and that one feels like a good one for the bye week.
Yeah, I go Hamilton. I'm not trying to filibuster here for Hamilton here, but that's my thought. An initial thought, because I don't know, like Stone obviously had all these interceptions, but I guess maybe it's like Stone has these big plays, but doesn't feel like as repeatable, even though he's repeated them many times. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I feel like Hamilton, like I trust that he'll make those plays every game. Like I kind of like the baseline things that he provides. But I also know that we saw, I mean, even when Hamilton played safety, like it's just a different kind of position. You don't necessarily always get the opportunity to make a play. So that's also a big part of it.
Well, whichever one you want to say is having the better year, I mean, it's undeniable that both of them are having a great year, which is excellent. Like you said, Marcus Williams has come back, and his slowly ramping back up, doing his thing. I think coverage has always, since he came back, has always been good, but he's getting a little more physical. It's unfortunate that he did have to be the guy who had to, run into Everett on the 1-inch line. Not really much you can do about that, Chris. I think you even pointed it out in the chat. Not really Williams' fault on that play, but tough luck there. Not quite sure why Everett felt the need to do the squirrel dance afterward. That was of all people who, if you told me that was going to come from one player this season of opposition to the Ravens, I don't think he would have been in my top 10 picks for that one. Felt incredibly random.
Maybe you just love Ray Lewis growing up,
I thought that was the story on the broadcast.
That's what he said.
I read about it somewhere.
It's interesting too because like you do it, and I feel like even though you're losing, so that's a plus. But like, I feel like it's a way to spark something on the opposing side. Right. It's like maybe just don't.
Well, I mean, every other time, this is far from the first time it's happened. The most infamous being, of course, 2004 when T.O. did it. But like, I feel like every other time it's been done as a taunt, and it's generally happened in games where like there was something personal against the Ravens. So that's where it just kind of felt kind of random to me. It's like maybe it was just for him to show how much he loved Ray Lewis. But I mean, I don't know. It was weird. No matter how you put it, it's weird. It's weird to do an homage to the team that you're playing against while you're still losing. And it's also weird for Gerald Everett, who, to my understanding, has no beef at all with the Ravens, nor the Ravens to him, to pull that out if it was a taunt. So, who knows?
No beef. Didn't you go protect Herbert at the beginning of the game when Stone laid the wood? I feel like
was that him? I thought that was one of the offensive linemen. It could have been him. Maybe that was his.
They were all. A lot of them were,
but non-call.
Yeah,
yeah.
Definitely a great all-around defensive performance. Any other call-outs we want to make?
We talked about Arthur Millette, right? Or did we not?
I mentioned him. Yeah, on the sack on the 4th down.
I had to make sure we mentioned him.
Yeah. He also had the pick. I had to go back and look. Yep. I was like, who actually caught it? I know someone did, but
which black helmet caught that? Yeah, I mean, the defense, gosh, I mean, we could continue to gush over it, but a lot of it was just what we've continued to see for week in and week out. There's really not much more to say than here's this thing that they've done. They did all these other weeks that they did yet again, or here's this thing, just props to Mike McDonald, props to Roquan Smith and the whole gang. They are putting on a unit that's really helping out this offense, which is, we've seen it be incredibly explosive, and we've seen it be incredibly frustrating. And last night, unfortunately, was the latter. In retrospect, I guess, it's been a while since this season, since they didn't have Mark Andrews there. So maybe we should have expected that to a degree. I know someone in our chat pointed out, it might have been Yoshi or someone else, but that 3rd down in particular was very poor passing downs for this team. And, that's somewhere that Mark Andrews is always a big help for the team. So now you got to find a new go-to guy. We were talking about it last week. Odell started to shine against the Bengals game. He was looking good early on the slants and then kind of disappeared. Zay was not as big a part of the game plan as was expected, even though he did end up having a pretty big game. So, frustrating, but I think in some ways it's kind of good that it happened this game, because I guess now it's even more of an emphasis that, hey, this unit has a lot of potential, but can still get derailed. You see that right before the bye. You have that taste in your mouth. Hopefully it gets the guys, extra focused on that. But, my guess is they already knew that. I mean, they play the games. We watch them. They know when they don't score. So,
yeah, it's so weird. I feel like my summary of I guess this offense is just a little bit predictable, yet like predictably consistent, but just inconsistent execution. I guess is a way of putting it. Just there's some weird play calls, I think, in some situations. I still don't understand the Wildcat play to Gus. When you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, like why would you remove the most dynamic player that gives you so many options out of shotgun basically in that particular play. It was very weird, and I feel like thinking about it's weird. Like I fully claim like this offense has done a lot of great things. I still think it can do a lot of great things, but I think it's interesting in the complaints of like this offense versus like the Greg Roman offense. I feel like the Greg Roman offense, there are like some things that are like reliable, like running on 3rd and 4. You're probably going to get that almost every single time because that's just what a Greg Roman offense does. Like that is the bread and butter of that offense, and that like when you need it, you're probably going to get it done. But I think the con to that type of offense is, okay, if you're in a position like a 3rd and 9 and you need to pass the ball, something you're not very good at doing, you're almost never going to get it because it's just not something you do very often, right? So it's funny, like that offense is more reliable in certain situations, but in other ones you just don't have the faith because you don't pass the ball to wide receiver 3. It's just not in the offense. You pass to the tight end or wide receiver 1. That's just what happens. And Monken's offense is so weird because the highs are higher, but the lows are just as low, honestly. I just don't know what to expect. Like down in distance, like what is Monken's offense really good at? One week they could be really good at running the ball in any situation possible. And then this week, you're just, you're not going to complete the 3rd and short, the 4th and shorts, because that's just what happens this week. Just like the call was in the wrong time, like execution was bad, whatever it was, I think the potential is much higher, but just it's consistently inconsistent. You just don't know what you're going to get game to game. And you can pick and choose your battle. Some people have a preference to one offense, some to the other. It doesn't really matter, but I think it's interesting in the looking at this offense, it feels very different from a Greg Roman offense, and just like how you perceive it and like how the problems kind of manifest. I could certainly say just from I feel like reading our game day chat and honestly reading pretty much everywhere else that are Ravens fans. I think the beginning of the game was like, yeah, everything was great. And then from like second quarter to pretty much, until like the last 3 minutes of the game was like, what is going on? When is the offense going to wake up? What's going on? It was very, it was very sad to watch, I think, at times.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. The big thing I've noticed, there's like the two major takeaways of this offense compared to the Roman offense is they get to the line a lot faster, which operationally I love. And then they also like consistently have a way to dump the ball off. Like Lamar's no longer his own check down as often. He has a way to pass to somebody else, and he doesn't use his legs. Because like this year, Lamar has been running in second gear a lot. Like we always talked about him running in third gear. I feel like he is actually running in second gear most of the time now, and I don't think it's because he's actually slower. I think he truly reserves running faster for gotta have it moments, and he's being a lot more conservative now with his body on I'm gonna scramble now kind of mode. I feel like he doesn't go quite as hard, which I think is a business decision and totally fine. But I think that's I love the fact that they're operationally better, but I don't love the fact that they almost feel to me as kind of unorganized or without a plan or easily distracted when it comes to when the play's actually going on. And what I mean by that is every once in a while you have plays that I absolutely despise where it's super clear what they're about to do. Like when they orbit motion Zay and it's clearly going to go his way and a little pitch out in space. I think that's worthless. Never do that. Because it's such a tell. And then I don't hate the Gus Wildcat play. I dislike that Lamar was still in the field. Fully commit to the bit and have an extra lineman if you're going to do something like that. But anyways, those are little nits. But what I think is tricky is that I feel as though when Lamar drops back in some of these plays, while he has a read progression, I don't know if he has a plan. And what I mean by that is I think he does really want to see how the play develops before he throws the ball, and doesn't look at the defense and say to himself, unless this changes, I'm going here. Like I'm skipping these reads and I'm going here. And I just feel like he constantly wants to see someone open. He doesn't, it's not that he doesn't throw people open or like help them get more open, is that I feel like he doesn't have the trust to throw the ball before they actually establish that they're open. It's like that. I see that a lot. And like, I know like I'm like my Bateman agenda. I see that a lot with Bateman where I'm like, he wins, but like, it's one of those things like if you don't want the timing to be right, you have to throw it before he won. You have to like assume it's going to happen, know the coverage is good, and take the shot. And I think like these kind of like little things slow down the offense. He's like maybe just a little bit of a beat behind, which sounds hard to say about like, you know, an MVP quarterback who's been playing great and like overall is a great person, but for the team. But like I think he's just slightly behind the offense in his orchestration passing, and that's kind of been my my bugaboo.
I think it also doesn't help when he obviously when he was healthy, Mark Andrews was clearly the number one target, right? And that was not unexpected. He was the guy coming into the season that Lamar had the longest tenure with. You know, Andrews and Lamar had great communication throughout his career when he would scramble around in the backfield and just kind of wait for guys to improvise and get open. I mean, you know, of course we talk about the drafting of Lamar, how much that changed the offense. But I mean, the signing of Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews was the perfect drafting guy to draft that same year to pair with Lamar. Not sure if that's how the Ravens 100% envisioned it, but that's how it ended up. He was just has been great for them. But I mean, even though, you know, tight end is there, you look at every offense in this league that has a consistent passing attack, they have a go-to wide receiver too. I mean, you know, the tight end can only do so much. Even just look at the Chiefs right now. Travis Kelce's still there. He's clearly the number one target, but who's their number one guy from a wide receiver standpoint? I think the Ravens have the problem this far into the season. Odell has at times looked like that guy, but he's been in and out with injury. So there's not a chance game to game to work that in-game consistency. Zay at times has looked like that guy, but he's a rookie. There's still some parts of his game that are inconsistent, particularly with, I think, the deep ball. Aguilar, they've tried to work in from time to time. He's had some drops, not a ton, but I think that's made it tough at times. And then there's Bateman, where no one really knows why that's going the way it is. You know, I think that it is hurting this offense that there's not a true, to this point, go-to guy. We look at when, you know, during the Flacco years, we always knew that he could go and throw to Mason. We always knew he could throw to Bolton. He could always throw to Steve Smith. Those guys were the unquestioned number one wide receivers in their time here. And then after Steve Smith left, you saw that, you know, Flacco had a harder time. Some might argue a little before that, but you know, I do think that is something, you know, not unexpected. We talked about it going into the season. How is this wide receiver target distribution going to you know, get worked out? I think it is really hurting this offense and Lamar from reaching their absolute highest potential, not having a clear-cut go-to wide receiver at this moment as it stands right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. I think especially with Odell just in and out with injuries. You know, I think, yeah, I feel like it was probably a little bit of a risk. I think to expect that from him, given the injury he was recovering from to begin with. But all that being said, even his health now with all the little things certainly hurts. But even in those offenses of past too, right? I mean, there is a ramp up period, right? I think, I kind of look at it too of like, really it's getting to the bye week and having that extra time to then look at like, okay, who do we have? What's working? What's not? What do we want to try to kind of take this team to the next level? It has been a long season so far, right? And we're just hitting the bye. So I do think there's plenty of opportunities, I think, for them to turn it around and to really double down on what's working to have more success. I think again, like I think they're trying. I think they're trying pieces, and we're starting to see like what could be. It's just a matter of putting it all together, I think. And I was gonna say, too, kind of on that point, back to what you were mentioning a little bit earlier, Alec, of just like the timing of things. I do think like I kind of agree with you, but I would say we're seeing it a little bit more, but maybe not on every route. Like I feel like actually the OBJ slants are a great example of like that's a timing of like Lamar's got the trust, like he's throwing that slant and expecting the OBJ to make that play, and that play in particular like works fairly well. Like we have a lot of success running that play, the exact same player, and it's all predicated on timing. I do kind of agree with you. I think there are a lot of other ones that just aren't working. Go routes for particular. They're just have not figured that out. Whether it's something that we kind of look and just throw it off that third step. Whether it's that or whether it's just trying to hit a go route when the play breaks down. We just have not figured that out. And there are a couple of other routes like that where I think we need to kind of look back and see like was it the right call in a certain situation? Did we not play it right? Did Lamar, see that the defense was going to play a certain way and be able to make that throw? Whatever it is, I think there's an opportunity now to be able to figure that out with the bye. But yeah, if we really want to see this offense kind of take the next level, we need more, more of that consistent execution across the board, not just these, little plays here and there that we think like, they tend to work. Like everything needs to be run smooth.
I think it's not the skill position players, unfortunately, that are being inconsistent and causing this issue, though. It is, I think, the offensive line. So this is becoming more and more of a liability, and I think it's definitely I think it all kind of like lines up. If you are like, why is this all happening? Why is the play a little behind? I think Lamar thinks he's going to have a little bit more time sometimes. And like, maybe I'm like, oh, like he's open, like get it out of there. Like I'm already like over here thinking to myself, this pocket's going to collapse. And then he holds on a little bit longer and then the pocket may or may not be collapsing. I think he just hasn't been getting long uninterrupted pockets. The tackles are like fighting for their life. Having poor games. Even Linderbaum had a bad play in this game. Interior lineman. Simmons, I think, had a little bit of a rough game. I saw him on the ground a lot. Like, it's just this offensive line, I think, is having issues in every phase, run and pass at certain times, and it's causing. I think it's one of the biggest reasons for our stop and go nature of this offense is the offensive line needs to be clicking better. And if they're not going to click better, you have to like change your play calling to fully embrace the line as a liability. But right now I feel like they're in this middle zone and it's not working out too great.
Yeah, the tackle situation is one that is, again, something that hopefully the Ravens will be able to take some time during the bye week to find a plan going forward. Stanley, it looks to me like he's fighting, looks to me like he's trying, but it just, I even watched some tape of his from 2020, even last year, to kind of try and compare. And, I can't say I saw a ton that was obvious, but certainly it did look to me like he was having an easier time back then. There were at times in this game where it looked like his footwork was a little slow. He looks like he's battling. I think Morgan Moses has had some good games this year, but the more athletic defensive ends have really given him a big struggle. The Ravens are trying to help these guys with having a lot of Patrick Ricard out there. Patrick Ricard certainly has not been written out of the offense and has been, I think, a big help in protection when he has been out there. But yeah, it's tough. And I think it, like you're saying, it is overshadowing the fact that the interior of the line is having very good season. Sure, Linderbaum had a play where he got blown up and had a hurried throw from Lamar. I think that was in the first quarter. There were a couple other instances where he had some struggle, but overall, he's had a really strong season. Zeitler has picked it up since his early season struggles. Simpson's been maybe a little more inconsistent than we'd like, but I think overall a solid player. tackle situation is really what's hurting with the pass protection. And I mean, you even look at it. You can even see it in Lamar's game logs. His biggest games this year, he's not getting hit. Seattle, Detroit, the first Cincinnati game, Tennessee. When he's got time, this offense has been able to execute on a lot of big plays. So going forward, hopefully Ronnie can get rested up. We know he knows how to be dominant. It's just, can his body still do it? Unfortunately, is the question there.
Yeah, it's definitely looking tough right now. The Chargers do have some good pieces on their defensive line. Obviously, Khalil Mack, his career is interesting. Obviously, he was really dominant when he was younger. I think getting traded and eventually ending up with the Chargers, it's been very hit or miss. Just in terms of his career, I think if he had a huge game earlier this season where he got like 4 or 5 sacks or something in that game, looked incredible, and then plenty of games where he's just silent, just hasn't no impact on the game. So we ended up getting a good version of Mack. He ended up having 2 sacks, I think both off Moses. He looks fast, explosive, strong. The Mack I think that people are used to from a couple of years ago. So I throw that out there too. Just the Chargers have got some guys like that. Like as much as as much as we went into it, kind of talking about this team and just saying like oh, how much damage can they do? They're so inconsistent. Coaching's bad. Like they do have players that can play. And so I think there is an element of that. But yeah, it's it's a shame. I can't say I can't say the offensive line is like terrible. I still think relative to like the rest of the league, I think they're pretty good. But I can't really foresee right now a plan like the 2012 Ravens where they're just like we're going to insert a player here and change some things up, and then all of a sudden like it's great. I don't think we have the depth for that. I mean, maybe you might think that way, Alec. I don't know, but yeah, I think we're probably going to have to ride with who we have. I think I'll probably be okay. I think there are ways to get around it, but I wouldn't expect, like Cleveland, for example, like insert him and then all of a sudden like everything's fixed. Like I don't think that's the plan.
6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a pass deflection, 10 total tackles for Khalil Mack against the Raiders week 4. So yeah, that's a career game right there. He's still got it a little bit. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think to your point, I think that in our preview of the game, we didn't discount that the Chargers have players on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball that can make plays and are the guys you got to look out for. It's more so just something about this team, the Chargers, they just always find a way to lose. I saw, it's funny, we glossed over it because I think we were talking about the offense as a whole and not really too much about individual plays. The play that broke the game open and ultimately won it for us, Zay's handoff to Zay. I wish I could remember where I saw it. I was just scrolling through Twitter today, but I believe NFL Next Gen Stats had that play as a 0.7% chance of being a touchdown on that play. And certainly it looked at first like it wasn't even going to become a first down. Like that's just bad luck there. That is incredibly bad luck, which isn't to discount Zay's effort and the blocking there, which was good. But yeah, there is something about this Chargers team, and it's been this way ever since Staley's been there, where it doesn't matter if Justin Herbert's having a great game, if the defense is making big plays, the game's always going to be close. And if they're playing a good team, it's probably going to be a loss.
I think the biggest thing is that I felt the game plan didn't exploit the weaknesses we thought they had on defense. Like we didn't see an egregious amount of slants, even though when we did see slants, they seem to be pretty decent. We didn't see them try to run like a lot. We felt like the run game was kind of abandoned. Gus Edwards had poor utilization, and you have to wonder if he was hurt, but he was in there near the end of the game too. So I don't know. Like it was unclear. I thought Odell was hurt, and he didn't play that many snaps. I thought he was like hurt, like re-injured kind of thing, and then he came back occasionally. So maybe they both were just a little banged up and using them sparingly in top gotta have it kind of situations. But just kind of like a peculiar game plan. Didn't attack the things I thought would be available for them, and then just up and down execution, poor third down play really resulted in an offense that just couldn't get off the ground. I mean, 3 turnovers, 20 points, not great.
Let's talk about something that was definitely great. I mean, this guy, ever since he finally got the chance to have some extended work against Seattle, he has not laid off the gas one bit. Utilization of Gus, not the greatest in this game, but we saw a lot of Keaton Mitchell, a lot of good touches there, and it's incredible. I'm still not over his speed. I don't know if you guys are, but just when he catches the ball and his ability to just stop on a dime. I'm trying to figure out which play it was, but there was a play, I think it was in the second half, where Lamar hit him over the middle, and he's going at an angle towards the sideline, and then immediately when he catches the ball, just plants his right foot, and within a millisecond, he's running upfield. It just an incredibly quick change of direction. Yeah, here it was, fourth quarter, 5 minutes to go.
3rd and 9 or 2nd and 9? Was that the play?
Yeah, it was 2nd and 9. Yeah,
yeah, that was a big conversion. Yeah,
huge, absolutely. Yeah, so it's great right now to have both Gus and Mitchell doing what they're doing in this offense. I think both of them bring really unique things to this offense. I wouldn't be shocked if the coaching staff looked at the Chargers defense. They were just like, we love Gus, but this just really feels like a better matchup for Keaton. And in some ways, I can understand that call if that was what it was. There just seemed to be an aversion to running up the middle this whole game. Like, we talked about with the Wildcat, with running Justice Hill inside the 20. It just seemed like they were overthinking that part of the game. They didn't even start. Gus Edwards was listed as a starter, but Keaton Mitchell got all the carries on that first drive from what I remember. I don't know. It's maybe Gus is dealing with a little bit of an injury, but there certainly seemed to be some apprehension towards running up the middle, which is a strength of this offense. So another thing you can chalk up to a weird part of the game. But I was trying to stay all positive here because Keaton Mitchell is continuing to be a star in the making and just adding an incredible dimension to this offense. I think every Ravens fan is just in awe of this guy every single time he touches the football.
Yeah, I mean, certainly with an offense that's missing kind of the big plays in the passing game. I mean, he's a threat to take it to the house pretty much every play. Not as many of the long breakaway runs this game, but that one long run that he had near the right sideline, I don't remember what that went for, 20, 30 some yards or something. Huge play. Great too, because I think that was a little bit of speed, a little bit of being able to slow down and kind of get blockers ahead of him and stuff like that. It was a great play. It kind of showed off a little bit more to his game than just raw breakaway speed, but still continues to just fight through contact and load tackles pretty easily, which I think is a huge asset from Keaton. But yeah, another guy I wanted to call out too. I thought he had a pretty good game, although again, just his usage kind of fell off, so it was hard to kind of determine whether it was something that the Ravens did or something that the Chargers did. But Isaiah Likely, I thought, also looked pretty good. His first kind of extended time without Andrews, he got involved. I know this season, his hands I feel like have been a little bit suspect. Part of it maybe just the few opportunities that he does have, but plenty of other games I think he's been one of the targets that Lamar decides to go through, and just they haven't been able to connect. I thought the first quarter his usage was pretty good. Got involved, was getting some yak, and overall converting some downs. So I think considering just to find consistency with him and figuring out, okay, how do we keep him in the game plan? He's obviously not going to be a Mark Andrews, not the same player. He's not going to be the security blanket, but still, like, I think you get him involved enough. I think he could be a pretty reliable chain mover. I don't want to say at best, but like at worst, like that's what you get from him. I think, if he could turn out to be a great red zone threat, like that's even better. But yeah, I thought there were a lot of good things from him.
I think Isaiah Likely has always performed quite well when he knows he's going to be a starter. Kind of like reading the tea leaves about something that Harbaugh has said before, where he kind of mentioned that they tried to intentionally get him involved again because he was like kind of down. I feel as though like he's a real gamer. Like he's like he'll like really ramp up when he knows his number's about to get called, and I think that's when he has like a really productive game. And I'm actually pretty confident, likely going forward, being able to be a good tight end substitute here. One thing I will say about Keaton is like I really just appreciate like he has good vision, he has great contact balance, but the part about his speed that I'm not going to ever get over, I don't think, is his 60 to 100. I would say in like car terms is like some cars do a good 0 to 60 and then they don't really have anything after that. This guy's 60 to 100 is like killer. He just keeps pulling, man. Like he's not done getting up to speed when other people are. And that's just so killer. It's how he's been able to get good angles on people and able to extend these plays that he has really no business extending. He is a difference maker and he's just different. Like there's a couple players in the league where you're like, this guy is different, and somehow undrafted free agent Shorty Keaton Mitchell is one of those guys that's just different. And I don't know how a guy like that doesn't get drafted. It still blows my mind. But yeah, he's just different. And there's no other way to say it. Super lucky to have him. So glad that it's working out. And I think his health and his ramp up into integration into the offense is one of the biggest things that will determine our playoff success.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. Scouting report, if I can recall correctly on him, the negatives were pass blocking skills were basically non-existent, and people had concerns about his frame. But honestly, that doesn't feel like a good enough excuse to not get this guy drafted in the 5th round with what the upside is with his playmaking. So I mean, just an absolute steal by the Ravens here with this guy. Will he ever be a guy who will be a 3-down starter? I don't know. I tend to think not, but still, even if he's not that type of guy, it seems like a guy who has the potential to have a long career here in Baltimore. Love what we're seeing from here. I guess to close things out, we should definitely, talk a little bit in depth about Lamar Jackson. I think this was an interesting game. You look at the stats, 56% completion percentage. It was tied for his worst completion percentage of the season. Only the 3rd game this season where he had a completion percentage under 60%, although he has had 2 in the past 3 games. The offense, like we said, struggling to score points. You've got a guy who has one of the biggest contracts in the game back there. But, I think you could still say that Lamar played a good game. I mean, no turnovers this game. He was helping to get the ball moving, but at the same time, I think there's definitely some throws that he missed. Certainly sometimes it was the receivers who let him down, but there are other times he skipped it low. Like we said, there were times the offensive line didn't block perfectly for him. I don't know. It was kind of a tough game to read on Lamar. How much of the offensive struggle do we put on him or from the around him? I tend to think that probably, we can say it's a little more of the offense around him, but still, I think going forward, you would like to see him take over a little more than we saw from him this game and not, have some more urgency on the offense, not have the game draw out as long as it did against an opponent that the Ravens clearly had the upper hand on for a good portion of that game.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, there. I think kind of what Alec brought up earlier too, of like, Lamar's probably only on 2nd gear. He's not kind of in that 3rd gear. When plays break down, it's not really his game this year. I think there probably could have been plenty of opportunities where Lamar from 2019, 2020, who would probably call a lot more design runs or scrambles, I guess, to pick up downs when the offense is stalling. I just don't think he's doing that this year, which I mean is fine. but I think he needs to figure out how to do that in other ways. And right now it can be tricky if guys aren't open or he's not able to kind of take those shots. Drives can or more easily stall out. I think that's fine. I mean, again, like we won, like so at the end of the day, like I don't necessarily think it's a recurring problem. I think there are a lot of highs from Lamar. The best thing I think is just no turnovers. Obviously that's when it gets real tricky. And I think some of his worst games as a Raven, I think the turnovers are really high. I mean, I'm thinking like the Chargers playoff game in 2018 was a high turnover game. I mean, look at some of his games against the Steelers. He's had a lot of turnovers against them. Those are bad. This one wasn't bad. It was a very meh game though. I can't say it was good, but there, I just want to say that there's still like, even in a game like this where you're like, okay, Lamar, could you, put a little bit more on your back and like, extend some drives and get the offense going. Yeah, it could have happened, but I'd argue like there were even some plays in there where he was making that like were still ridiculous. I mean, that completion, I think it was to Bateman, where he ended up Derwin James was jumping up in his face and he kind of faked him out and then kind of threw a sidearm pass underneath. I'm like, how do you defend against that? Like that's a ridiculous play. It ended up having a little bit of an impact, but maybe not mattering so much just because that, I don't actually remember if that drive led to a score or not, but
Probably didn't.
It did. Yeah, that one,
It did actually. Okay.
That one did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like he made a play there. So it's not all the end of the world. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we talked about this before. With Lamar, you just you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. And even though he didn't make a ton of good plays, he didn't have a ton of bad plays. So it's fine. Yeah.
He did. I think there were definitely also some plays where he almost got sacked, where he really was able to escape pressure and maybe pick up like 8-10 yards. That was where made a couple of those too.
Those are always special. The reason I know about the Bateman thing is he got all of his catches within like 6 minutes in the second quarter, and he only had one target afterwards, and that was the
one that got called back from Stanley.
No, that was also in that like sequence of 6 minutes. But there was also there was a target on fourth down when we turned it over on downs. That was to him. Right. The 16 like on the deep out just wasn't quite there. But anyways, the thing that's kind of crazy when you talk about Lamar is I think it's kind of like a weird maturity thing where he's becoming more mature as a NFL quarterback, and he also seems to have more trust in the team at large. So he doesn't want to like be selfish and just like call his own number. Sometimes to the detriment of the team, right? But like no one has hindsight's 20/20 with these kind of things. But I think he's just trying to play more within structure and trust that the other people can do the job. But then like when his offensive line fails him, he's like, like I should have ran like a second sooner, or or I should have passed a little bit sooner, or things of that nature. So he's still able to get himself out of some crazy situations and make good plays. But I think his tolerance to short circuit to cape is so high now that we're like just not seeing it as often. It's not that it's not there. It's just like he's trying not to do that. And I don't know, like it's one of those things you don't like necessarily coach out of him. Like I respect it. I get why he's doing it. I think like in a perfect world, that's what you want. I'm just wondering like if we're down by 7, playoffs, gotta have a drive. What Lamar do we see? And I'm worried it's going to be the trust thing, the team Lamar, and it might not have been the moment because I just want you to go win the game, man. And like, I truly do think like in short spurts, Lamar Jackson just doing it himself is probably the best way to win. Like that's I trust him more than anyone. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I'm wondering, how he thinks about it. I would love to know like how he thinks about it, how the coaches think about it, like what the conversations are. Cause I'd be stunned if he hasn't thought about these kind of things or like think about it because he knows he's special, right? But like we are absolutely like he's playing different and he's trying to be more of a team player in these circumstances, and we'll see. Hopefully that has the highest ceiling, but it also has a worse floor.
Yeah, it's like you got to find the right opportunity for him. Like I feel like the play against the Titans in the game that we did end up winning, like that run on the third quarter or whatever that ended up going that touchdown. Like, you got to find the right play of like that. Like that's the play we're talking about, of like doing Lamar things, getting the touchdown, like, seal the game. Like, it's just, finding the right time of like, okay, when can I do that? It is really, I think, what we're kind of talking about. And it is tricky, but I don't know where I was going to go with that, but yeah, like, it's okay. Like I said, his game is but that's okay. Like, he's allowed to have some of those games.
With that, unless there's anything else we want to talk about, I guess we'll go into our MVP section for the week.
Sure. I'll take Kyle Hamilton. I like the kid. He's good. That's all. We said it already.
Sure. I'll go Zay. Ended up having the huge difference in this game. 2 touchdowns. Lamar didn't like his celebration. At least the one, the flower girl one. That's okay.
Neither did Munkin. They are all hating on him. The guy's getting ripped.
That's his name, man. You gotta,
I thought it was creative, man. Now no one else seemed to be in
really
on
going
it.
Into the yeah. He's just really going in on the name, man. That's his brand. I can't hate the man for that.
Yeah,
but
he was definitely
ended up having a huge play.
He was into it in the red zone, but I can't remember who was behind him. It was Bateman and someone else, and he threw it. It's like no one seemed to know what to do. I don't know. That one might have just been
Simpson
him.
Caught it and then handed it to Bate, and then Bate did the thing. Yeah, it was. Yeah, they got to work on it a little bit. It's not like Tyreek's. Some of his celebrations been pretty crazy, or like Ocho Cinco's or something. But he's got a while before he gets up there. But still, it was a huge play. I tell you, we didn't really talk about it, but I just want to mention that last touchdown. Oh my god, that was so close. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it just like, it looked so close to being a fumble for me. It was just it didn't look like it was going to be a clean handoff at all, but then it ended up doing it, and then high leverage play turned into a touchdown. I mean, wow, incredible. So huge difference.
So many that you could give it to. So many. So oh man, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it to three guys who fought hard in this game. Jadeveon Clowney, Brent Urban, Michael Pierce. All of them recovered fumble. All of them wreaked havoc on the line. Defense, honestly, I feel like the whole defense should get the MVP. Everyone played great, but I'll single out those 3 guys for their work in the fumble recovery game. At least one of those guys had one of the forces as well. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Clowney, of course, on that sack late in the game. But man, what a performance by this defense. Maybe one of the all-time great performances for a Ravens defense, and that's saying something, because we know there's certainly been many incredibly great ones through the years for this franchise.
Truly think that they do deserve the game ball. Lamar thought that too in the post-game interview, and we'll wrap it up like that. The defense was great. The offense, work in progress, but everyone needs to go self-scout and figure it out over the bye week, get healthy, and we'll figure things out too over the bye week. So you can reach out to us at One Winning Pod. Let us know about those, customs in other countries, if there's any dishes people are bad at, or and also let us know what you thought about the game and MVPs and things of that nature. We always love to hear your thoughts on things. You can find us at One Winning Pod everywhere that you interact with us. And, it's a bye week. We'll figure out what we're going to do. And if we talk to you, we'll talk to you next week. If not, we'll see you after the Rams game. All in all, though, go Ravens.